right. You already know. I see you, my brother. Right on. 2021. There's just something about that feeling. What's going on, Lars? This is let me do the Seattle Sports Weekly Mazvita Maraire with my man, Lars Hanson. 2021. What's happening?
It is so nice to hear that four numbers, right? 2021, not 2020 anymore. We get that. It's just that one number. It's that one single one that makes everything so much better.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you this. What makes a lot of things much better is having you on and partnering up on this journey. So you know what? I'm still trying to. So thank you. And it's been a year since I talked to you. You know that.
Actually, yeah. It really has. It's been a year since we've been on too. It feels like it's been almost 2 years, right?
Yeah. We probably got one more day to I think that's it. I didn't got to bury that joke, but
right. We got actually. This is the last day because it's still the first week of the new year. So we got this week to have all the jokes.
Oh, fair enough. And we never cease to amaze because I'm sure we'll come up with some other duds and studs jokes that
you'll come up with the studs. I'll come up with the duds.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to share the Facebook, so I'll continue to. Didn't get that right. Still thought I'd kind of figure that out over the holidays, but anyways, you have good holidays. Give you a quick 30 seconds. How was it? Did you do anything?
It was kind of nice, actually. It was a very low key holidays. Didn't have a bunch of family over. Went to go see my mom and her boyfriend and have some nice family time. But other than that, just kind of laid low and ended the year safely. How about that?
Brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. So that means you're charged up. I'm charged up, and we got a lot to talk about. But our guy is on at 12:30 today.
Yes. I have so many. Well, you're probably gonna ask all the questions that I would ask anyways, but I can't wait to hear his answers. That's the most important.
You know what? And he's. Hopefully, you better ask one because it's your.
Oh, I got a couple.
Yeah. I mean, he's taking kind of encroaching. Well, not encroaching, but he's enhancing the college sports part of our show. So and people are like, well, you're going to say his name? Absolutely. Eldridge Recasner. And, he's up. I'm glad he's back doing his gig. The Pac-12 has him doing more and more games now.
That's good. I mean, he's really a good, insightful color analyst. He really is. And I think, the Pac-12 has a lot of hidden gems in this conference. I will say Eldridge is one of them.
I don't know whether to say another word because I know how we're gonna go. How you?
I left the door slightly open for if you want to take it.
Yeah. For all y'all, you see, there's an ongoing. There is an underlying theme with Lars Hanson of the Dawg Report, which is subsidiary of Rivals, but Lars covers recruiting, and obviously the high school sports. I mean the college sports, all of it. And Lars has been covering it for a long time since his days at WSU. He's a WSU grad. And, I'll give credit to Lars because he's professional and unbiased when it comes to covering UW, WSU. Where he's unbiased and has his own opinion and always wants to talk about it, and I got to refrain, is about the Pac-12 commissioners.
This is the Pac-12 in general, just the whole gong show that is the Pac-12.
You got to love to, okay. Well, you know what? Let's talk with Lars with Eldridge about that because it's interesting. I love the Pac-12, and I don't know I think people add to as bad as it is, even though it's not that bad. You know what I mean? I think we bash it more. We could, here you go. Let me tie this up. Words do matter. So, by the way. So.
That's very true.
What you say.
That's very true. It's very true.
Yeah, be careful what you say, and obviously, we always dip a little toe, just so you guys know. This is a sports show, but we are worldly, aren't we? So I am saying, correlating what happened to yesterday, the ongoing story about a sitting president and his words and what happened and all of that. Just staying there to say words do matter, and how that does relate to the Pac-12 and Lars and me is, I think we bash the Pac-12 more excessively, a little too much.
I think your assessment is probably right. However, the devil's advocate argument to that is that fact that the Pac-12 allows and opens the door to be bashed every single time. Like if you look at, let's just take a real quick synopsis of the football season. How many things off the top of your head could you say that the Pac-12 could or should have done differently, even before the season started, to allow themselves to be better positioned and to not have Larry Scott lie to the media and say, yes, we did everything possible to have USC be in a position to potentially win the conference and win and be in the college football playoff. He said that, but that's not even close to the truth.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm not going there. No way. You're not taking me that rabbit hole. I'm going to ask you to hold that question, and we'll ask Eldridge.
There you go.
But now remember, he is a Pac-12 guy. Right. I mean, that's righteous check. So he's not going to be able to really get how you and I can get into it. So,
right.
But anyways, man, we did it again. But I think we both, we love college sports. All right. So what do we have? Man, we got.
What don't we have?
Yeah, no doubt. So the Seahawks, absolutely. And I'm going to try to pull off this nice treat a little later on here. We'll see if we can do it with D Money's help. But anyways, the Seahawks play the Rams on Saturday, 1:40, the LA Rams for the third time this season. And the Hawks got the number 3 seed in the NFC West with their win over the 49ers. And the Rams, they lost to the Cardinals. They beat the Cardinals, I should say. And then, so they're the number 6. So number 3 plays number 6, and that would be Seattle's 3. And the Rams are number 6. So a lot of kind of interesting tentacles or intersects that are there in terms of this, again, third time they'll play each other. They know each other really well. And the Rams have the number 1 defense. And, we'll go into the stats like we do that. First impressions, what Rams and the Seahawks? I'm going to just throw that to you. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's again, when you have an interdivisional rival matchup going into the playoffs, I think it's one where everybody already knows what's on the table. You kind of know the opposing team way more so than you would if you're playing, let's say, a non-divisional opponent like Dallas or whatever, just some team you have maybe less familiarity with. I think it's, being at home, it should help. Again, I'm not saying the crowd noise factor, all that, but again, just playing at home, that should be kind of like, it should be a game Seattle should win. But again, knowing Seattle and just watching the 49ers game, they never make it easy. It's you got to play all 4 quarters. You got to make sure that Russ doesn't make too many mistakes and allow Russ to actually have a successful game that isn't predicated on him carrying the team. So I think they figured out most of their problems, and I would trust that Brian Schottenheimer has a good plan to figure out how to circumvent the Rams defense again. And I think overall Seattle should come out on a winning end. Yeah,
and to your point, we have been asking. We asked a couple of the players and Schottenheimer as well, who has the advantage, right, in a short turnaround, the offense or the defense. And we'll hear actually from Bobby Wagner and also Pete Carroll. And they will. Pete didn't get quite asked that pointed question, but he did talk about just these games and things like that. So why don't we do this? Let's go to here's Pete Carroll on his weekly press conference talking about Saturday's matchup at Lumen Field, 1:40, Rams and the Seahawks.
Okay, Coach, what can you tell us, or what can you share about Jamal Adams' status for Saturday?
Well, he's gonna work through the week and see what he can get done and see if he's okay. We'll have to wait all the way up to game day to figure that out.
Are you more or less positive that he would be available following your conversations in the last day?
Well, just judging from my general outlook, I'm positive. I'm more positive than not.
Thank you.
Sure.
Ben? Hey, Pete, you've reiterated a number of times that, you're not worried about the offense. So I was wondering, in what ways do you maybe see like similarities or shared characteristics between what the offense is now versus what it was at the beginning of the season, even though the offensive product looks different?
Well, generally, I'm not a worrier, so it doesn't really apply. But if you look at who we've been playing the last 3 weeks, these guys are really good, and they've made a difference. I don't think the defenses early in the year were playing to this level, and so it's a different, it's a different set of circumstances that we're up against. And these guys, here we go with the Rams. The Rams are best in the NFL, so these guys are really, really tough in all phases. So I'm not sure about answering your question about it, but we're getting ready to go put together a game plan and execute the things that we can do. We're going to mix our game, do the things that we like doing, and see if we can find a way to get enough points to win a game. And whatever it is. I don't care about the numbers before, the stats, or any of that stuff. It doesn't matter. All that stuff's gone. It doesn't matter at all right now. It's what happens now that counts. And so we couldn't be more fired up to go to this game and see if we can find our way to win.
And having Mike Iupati and Brandon Shell back, what does that do for the offense? And
stability, stability. Really, both those guys have been solid performers for us. They have the most experience over the guys that have been playing. That should help the guys next to them. Both those guys are starters for a reason, and so we're happy to have them back. It looks great to see those guys in the huddle. Yeah, we have a lot of confidence in Ryan because of the way he played and what he does. He showed us. He showed us he plays really hard. He's tough. He's a playmaker. He's very aggressive in his style of play, and the position that he's playing and the makeup of that spot. When he comes off the bench to play for Jamal, you saw us last week. He came in. He was pressuring right off the bat because that's what we think of him. We think of him in the same mold. So he'll be ready to go if we need him, and we'll be happy to play him. I mean, he had, like you said, he had a really good statement that he was able to make in the games he played, and we're happy to have him out there.
Mazvita.
Hey, Pete, you've talked about the good mixture on your team. Just how does that play out in terms of the veterans and the young guys going to the playoff game? How advantageous is that?
Well, I think it really helps, because just in typical fashion, young guys look up and they watch and they listen to the guys that are the Hoosayers, and it helps to have guys that have been there, and whether it would be helping to settle nerves or concerns, or to watch how they aren't going to change their preparation and their process or their mentality. Our guys that have been around, they know that we have to stick to the stuff that we do to put out a championship performance, and they'll see that, and I'll point it out too as we're going, and all of that combined, it helps, and it's good to have the young excitement about it. This game calls for juice, and so everybody needs to get fired up, and as we always do, and the young guys will certainly be there for them. So I think both sides have something to offer. What gave me the confidence to hold on to that is years of coaching, and watching guys do stuff, and knowing that what you see isn't always what you're going to get, and we had a lot of things to put together that had yet been, coalesced, and so it was going to take some time, and confidence in the coaches, confidence in the players, the playing ability of the guys, being able to see them, but not seeing them play well together yet. It just took us some time, and more, maybe a little longer than normal, but I'd never seen us be that bad. And so I knew that wasn't the way it was going to be. And so that's why I was confident. That's why I believed, and these guys gave me every reason to believe by the way they were, going about it. Kenny did a great job keeping these guys together, and we turned a great corner, and we still got a lot of improvement to make. So it's been an exciting challenge this year, and hopefully we can, make some noise here.
Yeah, Pete, this week is 10 years since your first playoff game here, and a pretty memorable one, the famous Marshawn Lynch run. What do you remember of that as that moment was unfolding, just being on the sideline, seeing that happen?
Yeah, that was a breathtaking moment. It really was. It was. That's why it's so memorable, and it's been a historic moment, for our area and even the league too. I mean, nobody else could have made that run the way he made it. in the way he finished it than Marshawn. And
As opposed to when the Saints have the ball.
The exhilaration that came from that was also because we were up against odds, and everybody had been chirping at us all the way through the preparation for the playoffs and all of that, and world champs and all. I mean, everything was going. It was just a moment in time that was kind of frozen, and I'm glad we could capture it and see Hasselbeck try to lay a block downfield and all that kind of stuff. It was pretty special.
And then for you, that was your first playoff game with this team. This week will be your 18th. I mean, could you have imagined 10 years ago you'd still be around coaching your 18th playoff game?
No, I didn't think you guys would keep me around here for 3 or 4 years at the time. That's way beyond what I thought could happen.
All right. Well, there you go. Quite a lot of stuff that's in there. And let me I mean, it's clearly the biggest news that came out yesterday was the fact that Jamal Adams will play. Adams said yesterday, you know what? I will play. There's no doubt in my mind. I'm good to go. So that's huge. That's huge. And let's see if we can do this. I'm going to share my screen, and let's see. There it is. Because what we got.
Crowd silent now, as opposed to when the Saints have the ball. Marshawn Lynch still on his feet. His blockers now. He's dancing his way to the touchdown.
I don't know. Can you see that? We might have to. War's trying to do something new.
I've ever seen in my life.
There we go.
They traded for from Buffalo.
What I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go back, and we're gonna. Here's Beast. Wait, here's the run. Here it is.
Silent now, as opposed to when the Saints have the ball. Oh, look at this run! What a run! Marshawn Lynch still on his feet. Has blockers now. He's dancing his way to the touchdown.
Legendary.
Indeed.
Oh, man.
And then at the end, the famous
the little turn and grab, yeah.
Yeah, the little grab there. Well, I think we're a family show, so we're kind of.
Well, he was going for a bag of Skittles. That's what he's going for, right?
Yeah.
He was going to whip out the Skittles and blow it all up, right? That's what he was going for. He's going to.
Do you remember where you were when that happened?
I was probably at home just watching the game on TV, but I'll never forget the play in terms of it's burned into just. I think the craziest part about that was I would have had to have been at home because I remember hearing about the earthquake shortly, like right as it was kind of like about a couple minutes after, and I'm just like, that is so Seattle. It's such a Seattle thing to where we wouldn't normally notice an earthquake, but because there's like 72,000 people rocking it at CenturyLink. Because Marshawn just decided to go off, that's when we're going to feel it. And I thought, when have you ever had a natural event in accordance with a sporting event? Like, I'm trying to think of the times in history where a sporting event caused a natural event, not a natural event impacted a sporting event, because we have plenty of those examples.
No doubt. It's an incredible moment. And, I can't think of one to answer your question. So I remember because I was at the game and I was talking to Steve Kelly, actually.
So Steve, a quick story on Steve that you'll appreciate. So I was my senior year in high school. I got credentialed to cover one game for the Seahawks, which is the Washington Redskins, or the Washington football team, formerly known as the team with the R word.
That's right.
But
nice.
Steve Kelly was in the elevator along with maybe 6 or 7 other writers, and it was Tavares Jackson was at quarterback, and he was saying that Tavares throws slower than a Jamie Moyer fastball, and right, it was so true, and exactly the image of the Jamie Moyer 65-mile-an-hour fastball. And he actually put that into his column for the game. And I remember reading it the next day, and I was just like, Steve actually did it. And Steve's so great. I miss that guy's columns, honestly.
Nah, he's incredible, and he always says, "I should come on the show." And I go back. I remember Steve covering the Sonics, and just he was probably one of the best NBA writers that's ever covered the NBA. So he's retired. I see him used to at the Sounders, incredible Sounders games when they're playing. Incredible writer. So we'll be. Let's try to get him on. All right, so we got to do our shtick here. We cannot leave our listeners and whatnot. We're informative. So,
right.
Taking a look at the numbers here. All right, hold tight while I give you these numbers, and then so obviously this is the Seahawks. Hello, against the Rams. So in terms of with the most interesting. Well, look, number one, the Rams. Their defense is number one. Total defense. They allowed just 281.9 yards. And the Seahawks, mind you, are now number 22. They were, for weeks on end, we would go on and say 32. In fact, we just never even talked about it. So what makes the Rams so good, you might ask, is their pass defense. They're number one in pass defense. And, excuse me, normally you would think that if you're number one overall, you'd be number one in pass defense, number one in run defense. That normally doesn't happen. But the Rams are about as close as anybody gets. They're number one in pass defense and number 3 in the rush defense. So that's about as close. I do not ever remember a team that was number one in pass defense and number one in rush defense. Maybe the Legion of Boom and, maybe the Vikings. And I will have to look that up and bring it back on the show. I will write that down. So getting back to the Seahawks now are no slouches. Their rush defense is number 5. All right. So now I talked the defenses. Let's go in a little bit in terms of the offense, how they rank. Right. So the Rams, their offense, nicely done. The Rams offense is number 10 and the Seahawks is number 12. So that's a pretty good this is going to be a good matchup here. And the pass offense isn't that much different. Number 13 against number 16. The Rams offense is number 13 and the Seahawks is number 16. So, who's going to be
That's so mind-boggling because you would think just looking at the offense, you have Wilson, Metcalf, Lockett, and emerging Disley. Jacob Hollister is kind of a factor. I mean, you would think Seattle would be higher than 16th. I don't know. I mean, maybe I wonder how much of that has to do with the run game not being as maybe successful this year as it has been in years past. Maybe
nicely done. The rush offense is 12. And actually, overall they're 17 overall, but they're still 16 in the run. So I think part of this, if we look at the numbers, it might be a matter of the ranking from the variance from, let's say, a 12 ranking to a 15 ranking might be 5 yards. Do you know what I'm saying?
And that's a good point.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a big point here is going to be that Jalen Ramsey and DK Metcalf, matchup.
Such a good matchup.
Yeah, that'll actually be a very, very good matchup. And so we can look at the numbers there. So, the rush defense, again, they're 5-3. I think it's going to be really interesting. Let me bring you up to speed in terms of, the injury report, because that's always kind of a big deal these days. So, we're lucky enough to get the injury report. And so for yesterday, Brian Monet is the only defensive tackle, did not participate. That's the only one. Now, limited participation in practice for the Seahawks. Jaron Reed, I think he's going to play. He injured his oblique muscle in the second quarter of the 49ers game. And Chris Carson is listed as foot load management. I love how that's now, evolved, because that was an NBA term. You know what I mean?
I mean, that was a personal term before it was an NBA term, man. There was mental health days before there was load management. Like, people forget that load management evolved into the NBA because younger players got older, and those players that became older were like, hang on, I'm doing life a little bit different than how you guys used to do it. So I'm gonna save myself every now and then.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. But and then Dwayne Brown, this is the more true to the knee resting vet. That's an NFL
right. Well, but that's also a smart one because there's no sense in, and kind of like Marshawn, back in the day, where it's like, why have them practice if there's really they're gonna play, they're a good locker room guy, they're not an issue, they're not practicing because they don't want to. It's just like, look, it's actually more beneficial for them not to have unnecessary wear and tear, especially on a knee.
Well, fair enough, but Lars, the key point there is they're actually saying it.
Right. They're being transparent.
Putting him on there. They're just saying, look, he's going to play. Don't be no fool. So that's what this – for the Rams, I would say full participation. Let me go back. Greg Olsen practiced. Remember, he did not – they held him out last game against the Niners, so that's a good one. Brandon Shell also is back, and that's the other kind of note here. The Seahawks have their full offensive line back. And because Brandon Shell and Mike Lupardi, as you heard Pete Carroll talk about, he's also full participation on the knee. DJ Dallas is also playing. And it's just to add an extra, I don't know if he'll be on the practice squad because now what you have in the running backs, and Rashard Penny, he's great, played last week and second game back after missing 18 months.
Right. And so you kind of have to progressively don't overload him as you get.
They did. That's what's funny because actually he had to sit out the second half because of cramps. And Pete, was actually kind of smirking about it and saying that maybe we might have overplayed him. So there you go. For the Rams, real quickly, I think the big question for everybody is Jared Goff did practice, limited practice. So the question is who will start a quarterback for the Rams, and we will come back and, we'll see how much more time. We'll wrap this up, but we are up on a break, so we're going to go on break. This is Seattle Sports Weekly. I'm Mazvita Maraire, and then we're going to pivot to Eldridge Recasner coming on, and we'll talk college sports. So this is Seattle Sports Weekly. We'll be right back.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not meeting Mrs. Jones in that cafe for a chat and nothing else, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
If you're an older adult or someone of any age with underlying medical conditions, you're at a higher risk for severe illness from COVID-19. Look, the good news is there are steps you can take to protect yourself and loved ones. Wash your hands often. Stay home unless you need food, medicine, or medical care. If you need to go out, stay at least 6 feet away. Avoid people who are sick and make a plan. Identify and talk with someone who can help care for you if you get sick. Have supplies like medicine and groceries on hand, or find ways to have them brought to you. And remember, wear a cloth face covering when around others. For more information, call Seattle King County Public Health at 206-477-3977. That's 206-477-3977.
What up, y'all? Check out the show. Check out the big show. I'm talking about the Traffic Jam Drive Time Radio, Dirty Harry Radio. Of course, Rainier Avenue Radio, Traffic 4 to 6. If I could say it in multiple languages, I would, but I only know one. I'm not going to fake the funk. In the studio with my guy,
Kareem the Dream, the executive producer for Rainier Avenue Radio.
And all the females, all the beautiful women out there are telling me he really is a dream. And I'll say, you know what? That's all I needed to hear. Too much information, but Dirty Harry. All right, check out the show Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 on Rainier Avenue Radio. Contest, in-studio interviews, play-by-plays. We give you the ingredients. We're your chefs in the kitchen. Let's go. Kareem the Dream, Dirty Harry, Rainier Avenue Radio. Come on.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Because NCAA eligibility was essentially paused in 2020, The Huskies' leading rusher, Sean McGrew, is allowed to return for a 6th season next fall. According to the Seattle Times, in just 4 games last season, the 5'7", 175-pound running back led the Huskies in rushing yards per carry, and rushing touchdown. The former St. John Bosco standout has compiled 854 rushing yards, 5.2 yards per carry, and 8 touchdowns so far in his UW career. Which isn't to say McGrew is guaranteed anything. After all, the Huskies should have 5 other scholarship running backs next season. Redshirt sophomore Richard Newton, redshirt freshman Cameron Davis, true freshman Javion Sunday, and Sam Adams II, and incoming freshman Caleb Berry. A 6th fifth-year senior Kamari Pleasant has yet to announce whether he'll be back in 2021. But in the last 24 hours, UW coach Jimmy Lake learned that his leading receiver, leading pass rusher, and top offensive lineman will be back in Seattle next season.
And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Would you like to see when your favorite Rainier Avenue Radio show comes on? Check out our show schedule, updated weekly at rainieravenue.world.
All right, we are back. And there we go. Absolutely. I always got to check the mute button these days. You know what I mean? You just can't do anything. So this is Seattle Sports Weekly. I'm Mazvita Maraire. With me is Lars Hanson of the Dawg Report. And, you can find his stuff at where can I get your stuff?
So Washington.rivals.com or thedawgreport.com, THEDAWG report.com.
Okay. And by the way, I'm going to sneak in that Seattle Sports Weekly is brought to you by CascadiaSports.net.
There you go.
Yeah. So you can go up there and see some of the latest sports news and things like that. So, there's one sponsor, tongue-in-cheek. So there you go. All right. So, well, you know what? Why don't we talk a little football? Because I know after given what they just said on what the little tease they gave there in terms of let's talk a little UW football, right? And the news there. What was your overall take in terms of the recruiting?
The cost they brought in?
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is what you do.
Right.
So,
I think the obvious name is Sam Heward, that the 5-star quarterback out of Kennedy Catholic, son of Damon Heward, nephew of Brock, the Heward family, everyone there, Luke, everyone. But I think the thing for Washington in the 2021 class was it wasn't going to be a big class, but they had to get kind of the right fit guys. They had to get a couple of defensive linemen, which they did, one out of Hawaii and one out of Utah. They have 2 tight ends who are enrolling early. Actually, they're already enrolled. Quentin Moore and the other one I'm blanking on. They only had 2. I think actually there's some rumblings that Sam might be enrolling. I'm not sure that's not official. That's not like
Sam
Heward. Because his original plan was to enroll in January. And then when Washington high school football got canceled, he wanted to still play for a state title in the spring. Now with the WIAA, not sure if they're even going to have a season. Sam's thinking possibly maybe enroll early like he planned. So I think that one's still slightly up in the air, at least in terms of officially. But I think, whether or not Sam enrolls early, I think actually. Kind of a segue off of that is they also did add a grad transfer quarterback.
Just going to ask you about that, but go ahead. Yeah.
And so I think, the class itself, I think, you missed on Emeka Ibuka, who went to Ohio State. I think that one was kind of always a tall task for a couple of reasons, because you don't have an offensive system that is exactly appealing to elite wide receivers and guys like that. Junior Adams, he had a great relationship with him, but I think Junior being the only one recruiting him kind of left him out to dry in a way. So I don't think the UW maybe did as best of a job they could. And that's maybe on Lake. That's maybe on John Donovan. That's kind of just on the whole apparatus. JT Tuimoloau probably not going to come to Washington, but he's still uncommitted. So, I think for what the class was, they got the bodies they needed. They got depth, but it was kind of one of the classes where they needed to hit on 3 in-state guys, and they only got 1.
All right, hold that thought, because I'm going to give you the latest. The WIA yesterday, beginning with pre-competition practice on February the 1st and ending on March 20th. This is a set announcement. The sports schedule for that season includes cross-country, football, golf, alternative slow pitch, softball, girls, and 1B/2B boys soccer, tennis, alternate, and volleyball. So looks like he will be football will be being played in the coming up. Yeah, so
that would definitely make a huge difference for Sam.
And so I tell you, some of the side chatter that goes on with D Money. No, the point is, if you want to know more, by the way, here's a plug-in for Metro Sports Weekly tonight at 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. with Pat McCarthy. He's talk more high school sports, and actually, we're having the coach. The name I forget. I haven't got the name yet, which is really bad. But of the number 1 AAU girls team in the country. So 2 of the girls on the team play for from Seattle. So we're gonna have her on tonight and talk a little bit. But so there you go. Softball girls will be playing. So all right, let me ask you, man. Are we really is it? So let me wrap up. So you're okay with the Jimmy Lake's recruit? I mean, the class, because you and I talked a little bit about this off air, and there was a report that they were like, he didn't. You know what I mean?
Right. I think the honest assessment is you got decent guys, but they still missed on guys they needed to get, and so I think it's not. It's not USC bad from last year. It wasn't that bad of a class, but it certainly wasn't anything of what they were hoping for, especially when you transition from Lake to Peterson and with the premise being you're going to be not like more lax with recruiting, but you're kind of going to be more in tune with the players and maybe not be as rigid. And then your class doesn't really reflect that. Granted, again, it's a pandemic. I think this what'll be interesting to see with not just Washington, but a lot of the 2021 recruits, how many of them end up transferring in a year or two. Because there's a lot of guys where, there was even a handful of late flips where one kid flipped from Michigan to UCLA.
Yeah, and I'll add this, though, to flip that script, his best recruiting might have been the players that stayed.
Right, exactly. And I think the thing that people didn't appreciate, I think, about this class is the fact that UW has so much already on the roster, it just hasn't played. Like, Zion, this was his first year playing. Lele Ailatu still hasn't played much. Braylon Trice hasn't really played at all. There's so many guys. Savella Small, his first year. Like, so much talent on the roster. You basically, there's one of 2 ways you can do it. You can either run off a bunch of your players on the roster, impact the APR negatively, and then sign a bunch of new 4-star guys and make it seem great, or maximize the talent you have on the roster and get what you can in your class and move forward.
Yeah, I actually think that was probably the most, for me, what levels off or what balances out the whatever. And then, I would say whatever naysayers or whatever criticism is there is the ability to keep almost everybody there in terms of the football team. That in of itself says a lot about who he is and where he'll go with future recruiting.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, and especially being his first year, you're getting, let's talk about quickly the guys that got back. Kate Otten, Zion Tupuola-Fatui, Elijah left, Keith Taylor left. Well, those guys graduated, so they were expected to leave. Sean McGrew came back. That was a little surprising. And I think, again, the question that I still have with Washington and what really is going to make the 2021 class matter is, again, it just seemed like, and again, it could be that it was only 4 games, but it just seemed like Washington on offense was so reserved this year that I have a hard time seeing, unless you're going to flip open the script and, open up the playbook. And again, the guy that I thought, might end up in the Northwest is going to stay in Dallas for another year. So, I mean, that, so there's so many moving parts, and I have a sense of where I think we didn't totally see everything of what Jimmy Lake was capable of in 2020, but I think we saw enough to where you would hope that if he gets a full season, he shows a little bit more.
Well, he won the Pac-12 North while you're going on and on about all that. I mean,
right. But in a shortened year, you kind of you take the accomplishment, right? You take winning the North, but you don't play in the Pac-12 title game or in a bowl game. And the bowl game,
that's different. I'm talking about he won the Pac-12 North. Right,
absolutely, yeah. No, I'm fully on board with that, and it's again, it's a cute. It was just funny to watch Oregon flip out of that. But the fact is, they did win the North. That's true. But I think again, having it, this needs to be a building year. You need to build off this year. Not win the North. It shouldn't be a surprise. It should be the minimum expectation.
Right. Yeah, no, and I'm saying that just in terms of there's a little bit of accomplishment there, but yeah, you're right. The overall perspective, I think, will be interesting. Now, I also think that in terms of your ongoing story about said assistant coach staying for another year, that's what it looks like for him to eventually come here.
Right, where it makes sense. We're saying, yeah.
No, absolutely. Remember, we talked about you needed to go 2 years all the way around over there,
right,
and 2 years over here, and then maybe if you make that decision, I think then it's okay. It's deemed upon. That's not a bad move in terms of changing ship.
And one other thing, that between the time we had that conversation and the end of the season was, I actually thought, to even your point, who is not to say that Dylan couldn't be Dak Prescott and still start? It doesn't automatically assume that just because you have a lefty that Sam is automatically starting. So you could still get the most out of Dylan for 2 years and then turn it over to Sam. But I think to your point, you're probably just going to wait that extra year and a half, get to 2 years, and that make it seem a little more in the up and up.
Yeah, if Morris is a quarterback next year again, I don't think I mean, that's my guy, and why I mean,
they lost. They did just lose 2, so
yeah. Well, put him on the show. Would Hurd be okay with sitting out a year?
I mean, that's what you got to ask. Does he have a choice? I mean, do you? That's the one question that I have for Lake. Can you say no to the 5-star and make him redshirt?
Well, we're going to pivot. I mean, we're just going to start.
I love Eldridge. Look, no, I love those glasses. Right?
Our guy is on. Mr. Eldridge Recasner. What's up, E?
Hey, Maz, how you doing, man?
Yeah, we good. I got Lars with me and everything else, man. So you getting a lot of work this year, Mr. Pac-12 basketball. What's that been like? What's going on?
I had man. All the games have been getting canceled, Maz. It's just this COVID protocol, man. It's been brutal.
Yeah. And but yeah, should they be playing? Do you think they should, cancel, or this is just the nature of what what we're dealing with right now?
I think it's the nature of the beast, man. In an ideal world, you would want everybody to be safe and not playing, but it's just it's too much money, man. I mean, there's too many lives that'll be affected if they don't try to play the games, and I think that's the biggest issue. You're almost damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And, if you don't play, so many people can't put food on their tables, man, can't pay their bills. So it puts you in a real, real tough situation. Obviously you don't want to put anybody's life at risk, but it's a situation where I think the NCAA just decided to roll the dice, and it's a real bumpy road, man. It's a really bumpy road. Every day, you know, I'm seeing teams going on pause, games getting canceled, schedules getting moved around. But that's the world that we're in right now. We're just gonna have to fight through it.
Yeah, well, you know, I think parents and everybody else and the league appreciates, you know, you all doing what you do. So the Stanford Oregon State game, did that get canceled, or did you do that game?
I did that game, but it was postponed. It was supposed to take place, you know, last Thursday. COVID protocol broke out with Oregon State. They had to postpone the game. We ended up doing it on Monday. But this is how crazy it is. So we did the game on Monday at 12 noon. Tuesday, I get an email, Oregon State's on pause again. So it's just bananas, man. You know, I had 2 games scheduled for this week. I had a game tomorrow at UW's women versus Arizona, and then Sunday versus Arizona State. Both of those games have been canceled. So, like I said, it's just been a rough season to try to complete. But I just think they're trying to do it, man. And I take my hat off to them, but it's just been really tough.
Yeah, and you know what? I agree with the fact. I concur in terms of them, the athletes just learning what life's about, because it's a microcosm of what's happening outside of the boundaries of the court, if you will. So, and it's been a nice distraction. I don't want to call the games a distraction, but when the games that I have gone to watch the University of Washington men's basketball team, you know, the kids are playing and, you know, doing their thing. I saw the UW play Montana, and Freddie Brown, you know, was on the team. I didn't know he played for Montana Grizzlies, but and Montana beat the UW. In terms of UW, what's your take? I mean, is this just part of the growing pains of the program? What's going with Hopkins right now?
You know what? I haven't seen a team in person. You know, Maz. I had a couple games scheduled, you know, right around the Thanksgiving holiday for the Husky Classic. You know, I was supposed to do 3 games around Thanksgiving weekend. And just as I was just getting ready to go try to check out a practice, you know, the stuff started coming out about, you know, the teams. You know, San Diego had an issue. Cal State Fullerton had an issue. So I haven't had a chance to see them in person, but just from looking from a distance, man, I mean, it's a new system. And honestly, I just don't think they have the personnel to try to play the style that they want to play. You know, they want to get up 25 to 33s a game, but they don't have the guys to make the shots. You know, what I see is one guy carrying the load, Quade Green. You know, he's kind of trying to put the team on his back, but no one has stepped up consistently to help him out. You know, I think the last game I saw him play against Arrow, he had 23, and nobody else scored over 7 points, and you're just not going to win that way. Because when an opposing team know you only have one guy that can do some damage, they're either going to let him score the points, or they're going to try to make somebody else beat them, and that's what they've been doing. You know, guys are getting shots, but they can't make them. So it's just a real head scratcher, man. I know it would hurt losing Isaiah Stewart and Jaden McDaniels, but I didn't think it would have this big of an effect.
Well said, yeah, and you know it's in credit to, you know, Mike Hopkins, like everybody else. You know, you got to learn on the job, and you know this is a different learning curve, and you know, not to bash him, but every coaches go through, you know, a different iteration in terms of who you are and what you are. So, one question for you: from the NCAA announced that they were going to play the whole tournament in the bubble. Did you see that? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's great. You know, from what I've heard, I've never been to Indianapolis for the Final Four, but I hear it's one of the best places to have it, along like with New Orleans, because it's so, you know, it's so close in, you can walk everywhere. But I think it's great that they're going to have every team in one city, because in that way you avoid all the trouble, you know, with travel, you know, and picking up the virus on the airplane or going to a different city. So if they have everyone in one city, man, I think they're using like 6 different arenas that are in the Indianapolis area. I mean, hopefully that helps, and hopefully it pulls it off, because I think everybody wants to see the tournament. You know, you can say what you want, man. It's been rough, Maz. It's been rough sitting in your house all damn day. You know, you can't go nowhere, and we do go somewhere. I mean, I don't know how many times I'll go somewhere and I'll get out of the car, and I'm like, oh damn, I forgot my mask. You know, it's just a tough adjustment to a really, really tough lifestyle. So if you get the opportunity to be entertained by basketball, football, whatever it is, it's an outlet, man, because it's become really stressful And then, you know, if somebody in your family gets the virus and they have symptoms, and it hits home, and you really know how serious it is. So it's been, you know, 2020 was a really trying year, and it doesn't look like we're out of the dark yet, man. 2021 has started off, and it's, you know, you're still in the same place. So hopefully they can pull that March Madness tournament off. And I think having everybody in one city is great.
Yeah, and just on the whole COVID, is it like the NFL as well? Are we seeing more cases with athletes? You know, and obviously, thank goodness we haven't heard any major case where illness in terms of athletes and coaches, and I mean both college and football. Is it actually a good thing in terms of maybe the testing is up now, so they're testing more and we're getting early results? Is that part of what's happening here from athletic perspective?
I think that's a part of it, but I think people are just taking it more serious now, you know, because it probably hit everybody's family at this point. You know, when you talk about over 300,000 people dead, I mean, it didn't hit. I mean, I know personally for me, it didn't hit me, you know, with either family or friend. And I'm talking about death, man. So it's you know, I think once you see it happen to other people, and you go, oh well, that ain't gonna happen to me. But once it's your family, then all of a sudden it's real. And I think that's what we're seeing is happening, man. I mean, you look at Carl Anthony Towns, his mother died of it, and all I could think about was this guy is rich. You know, he has excess medical care that's out there, and he couldn't save his mother. So if that's the case for him, the average person just doesn't stand it. I think that's what we're seeing. I think people are starting to take this thing, you know, they're starting to take it more serious, because I gotta admit, man, when this first hit last March, I had no idea that it would still be around right now. If you'd have told me to still be around in 2021, I'd have said you're crazy. But here we are. I'm still not going nowhere, man. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, you feel like you're a damn hostage. You're free to go somewhere, but you're scared to death to try to go somewhere because you just don't know if you're going to bring it back into your household.
No, absolutely. Hey, you know, I always got to shout out to my guy, man. What's Manny up to? That's right. I'm always going to ask how he's doing. What's he up to? What's going on?
Who's that? I didn't hear you.
Oh, your son. Well, what's Manny up to? Your boy. What's your boy up to? How's he handling this?
Oh, Manny. he's hanging in there, man. It's, you know, it's been rough on him because, you know, my mom was here with us, you know, for most of the fall, early winter, man. So I was just paranoid to let him do anything, Mom. So he just been in the house knocking out his schoolwork, man. I know he missed playing because every time I see him, he has a ball in his hand. But I saw the WIAA announce that football is going to start on February the 1st. I don't know what that means for basketball, but I'm just hoping all the kids, man, have a chance to have a season, and especially the kids that are seniors in high school. You know, what a terrible way to end your high school, you know, if you can't play. So I'm hoping that somehow they find out a way, you know, to make this thing work. You know, we got some testing, you know, some vaccines out there now, and I'm hoping that helps so the kids can at least finish out their senior seasons.
Yeah, Lars, you know what? You see all these Seattle basketball grades, you know, like Eldridge and, you know, Donald Watts and Freddie Brown, you know, Fred Brown. But and the way they have brought up their kids in Eldridge, you know what I'm saying? And when you get to at least be in the presence of their kids, whether they're males or females, I mean, they are some of the most amazing kids. So, you know, I having a chance to have ref that guy, you know, man, I'm a fan of Manny, man. I'm just gonna watch him go. He's one of those kids that just he's quiet. And I don't know, he might have changed, but he reminds me of Paulo, where he's quiet. He, you know, goes into the game, comes back out, lets everybody else do their thing, and then he just kind of watches. So I always got to shout out. So I had another point, but in terms of we got a few more minutes. How strong is the Pac-12, Eldridge, Pac-12 basketball in terms of what you think compared to the other conferences? And it's hard to figure it out, but how strong is the Pac-12 from your observations? No, can you hear me? All right, so
Mars, we broke up a little bit.
Yeah, how good is the Pac-12 basketball?
Can you
how strong is it?
Repeat the question.
Lars, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how good is the Pac-12 conference? Kind of trying to figure out how good is the Pac-12 conference compared to the other conferences.
It's that good you can't describe it. It's that good.
He's speechless when it comes to the.
How strong 12? I think I anticipated it being a lot stronger, Maz, but there've been some bad injuries, man. I mean, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good now. Absolutely.
I think it's as good as it could have been. You know, they've been, you know, UCLA won the league. One of their best players hurt it, so that's affecting them. Oregon, one of their best players, their starting point guard.
Okay.
Can you hear me at all, Maz?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, but you're good. You're good. We can hear you. All right, so there we go.
Yeah, we're breaking up, man. I don't know if can you guys hear me a little bit better now?
Yeah, we can. We got 1 minute, so
So what I was saying was
take us home. So you said the Pac-12 is Oregon's good. Is that what you said?
I obviously expected the Pac-12.
Okay. We'll end on the note that Eldridge said, Eldridge Recasner.
When it's all said and done, it'll be the better team if they can get Will Richardson back. If Will Richardson can come back.
Okay. All right. Well, there it is. We're on the break. We got to bring you back again. You know, we'll get you on when the season ends, and in terms of if you could do the NCAA for us. But as always, man, I know you're busy. Got a lot going on. I appreciate you coming on, Eldridge Recasner, former UW star Pac-12 legend, and now he's on the Pac-12 conference. He's doing basketball games, both men and women. Thanks again, E, for coming on. Lars, thank you. Appreciate you. We'll be back next week. Thanks a lot, fellas.
When you see Jah